Everybody, welcome. I'm Three Things Today. I am the host of this program. Next up, Mark Halperin. I'm the editor-in-chief of the live interactive video platform Two Way, and I'm fired up about the reported monologue and our guest. I'll tell you about our guest in just a minute. I'm fired up at the monologue because everybody's talking about the midterm elections, what's going to happen in the midterms, what's happening now that could influence that. And I think I've solved it for you and for me. A lot of talk to Democratic and Republican strategists this week, and I think I got it figured out, at least as much as anybody can. So excited to share that with you. Later in the program, we're going to be joined by my MK Media colleague, Maureen Callahan. She's kind of a genius about everything. You know her work at the Daily Mail and here on this network on her show, The Nerve. We're going to break down the award season, talk Oscars, talk Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, and so much more. Looking forward to visiting with Maureen. But first, we'll start with some political. My reported monologue on why Republicans are now sweating the midterms. This has been a kind of an evolution leading up to the big election that they had in Texas over the weekend, where a Democrat won a state legislative contest in a very Republican district, a district that President Trump had done well. Up until that point, the conventional wisdom was that Republicans were probably going to lose the House, but maybe had a chance to keep the majority. They've got a narrow majority now, and that they'd probably keep the Senate. So control would switch in January to Democrats controlling the House, Republicans controlling the Senate. That was the conventional wisdom before. Okay. And then this election happened, and people started, even before that election, because of the president's poll numbers, because of some other factors we'll talk about, people started to say, no, any chance Republicans had to keep the House is gone. And in fact, they could lose the House badly, that it could be a so-called blue wave, even though there's some factors that suggest that's less likely than usual. And they said maybe the Senate's in play. And then this election happened in Texas. And normally a special election in a weekend in a state legislative race with bad weather, people would write it off. But almost no one, not no one, but almost no one's writing it off. So what I'm going to walk you through is my reporting on the state of play now, where Republicans say if these are the conditions, how the voters are feeling, how President Trump is playing in the election, the historical trends which say a president in the midterms is going to do poorly. If all that is the status quo and it pervades all the way through November, Republicans are going to have a very bad election day. That's become the conventional wisdom. And before, it was possible to find some folks, and I agreed with this, that say the Trump folks, there's reason to think they could defy history and can keep control of the House. And what is now the case is that no one I've talked to who I take seriously believes Republicans currently are able to keep control of the House. And that would have huge implications for our politics, for government. If President Trump does not control the House, that means the gavel goes to Hakeem Jeffries, and you'd see a much different atmosphere in the House. You'd go from the president trying to legislate to fighting off investigations, for one thing. Now, history is the biggest thing here when we talk about how President Trump and his party are going to do in the midterms, because presidents in their midterms, first term, second term, they don't do well historically, okay? Let's take a look at the history of how the House has gone, and we're really focused on the House. The Senate's a different piece. Let's look at this. Put up the graphic, please, to show how have presidents done in their midterms, okay? And we're just going back to Reagan. That's kind of the modern era when everything's kind of had some similarities. So these are the two-term presidents, so they had two midterm elections, 2 years in and 4 years in. Now, Trump's is a little different, right, because he's not consecutive. And so people are saying, is this really like a second midterm? So here's what we see. For those of you listening on the podcast, I'll spell it out for you. Reagan lost 26 House seats in his first midterm, 5 in his second. Clinton lost 52 House seats in his midterm, and then the Republicans overplayed their hand with impeachment. Clinton's party actually gained 5 seats in his second midterm. Bush gained 8 in his first midterm. 9/11 was a big factor there, and then lost 30 in his second midterm with the bad economy, people upset about the Iraq war. So all three of them got wiped out in their midterms, as did Barack Obama, as did Donald Trump, right? Sometimes it's been the first midterm, sometimes it's been the second. But Reagan wiped out in his first midterm, Clinton wiped out in his first midterm, Bush wiped out in his second midterm, Obama wiped out in his first midterm, lost 63 House seats in his first midterm, and then 13 more in his second. Okay. And then lastly, Trump in his first midterm, the only one he's had so far, he lost 40. So Clinton and Bush, with very special circumstances, defied losing seats in the midterms. But the rest of the time, wipeouts. Reagan did better in his second midterm because the economy had come back, but wiped out in his first. Okay, so that's the history. And so people are assuming that unless something extraordinary happens, President Trump is going to be wiped out in this midterm as well. Polls are bad for him. Every public and private poll I see, the polls are bad. People don't approve of the job he's doing. There was one poll that came out that showed voters by a slight majority, a slight edge, thought the Biden economy was better than the Trump economy. That's got to kill President Trump. Voters are still in a sour mood about the economy, even though there's economic data that suggests things are better. What's happened in Minnesota with ICE and border protection also has not been good for the Republican brand. Republicans will tell you that. And then we had this Texas election, okay? As I said, even before the special election that the Democrat won in a Trump district, we had people I respect saying blue wave, not narrow Republican loss in the midterms, but a blue wave. Here's Alex Castellanos, one of the Republicans I look to, longtime strategist. Here's Alex in a conversation on two-way from right before this midterm, this special election in Texas. Here's what Alex said about the prospect of a blue wave. This is S10, please.
I do think the midterms are going to be a disaster between 24 and almost 40 seats, but because Trump is on the ballot, not because
you think Republicans could lose 40 House seats?
I think I agree with Sosnick that if Democrats run 10 points ahead, we lose 20, low 20s, but if it's more than that, we could lose a lot. Yeah.
So what Alex was willing to say publicly, a lot of Republican strategists this week said to me privately, and again, some of them started saying it even before this election in Texas that it's gotten so much attention. Basically, the line is the House is lost, and Republicans are going to lose some number of seats, a significant number, around 20. But some are saying, as Alex did, that it could be higher. That if the sour mood, the throw the bums out attitude, which so often fuels the incumbent presidential party doing poorly in midterms, if that continues the way it is right now, that it could be 40 seats. 40 is basically the ceiling. 40 House seats would be a wipeout. Not only would it shift the majority control, but it would have huge implications for the narrative of how the president is doing, okay? So that was before this election in Texas. And since then, now people are concerned. Again, if you're a cautious Democrat or an optimistic Republican, you say, sure, a snapshot today, if the midterms were today, it would be a wipeout. And seats in districts that President Trump won easily could be in play. And then this Texas election happened. The guy who won there is a union member, a blue-collar type guy. His name is Taylor Remmett. And he won in a district around Fort Worth, that in the Fort Worth area that no one expected him to win. Republicans spent a lot of money. The president went on True Social to support the Republican candidate. And this guy, Taylor Remmett, still won. Here he is talking about why he thinks he won in his Morning Joe victory lap. This is S5, please.
To me, it was simple. We had to focus on solutions, not partisan politics. Bringing communities together, that's what it's all about. In Texas, we look out for our neighbors, and that's exactly what we did with this campaign.
Now, we had the elections last November where Democrats did very well all over the country. And there's two kinds of Republicans I talk to and hear talking in public. There's the ones who say, okay, wake up call, wake up call, wake up call, time to wake up. We need a different plan to make things better before November. And then there's ones who either profess to be not concerned or seem to be in denial. One of those would be President Trump, who said nothing to see here about the Texas race, even though he had been on True Social supporting the Republican. When he was asked about it this week, he said, I don't know much about that race, not something I was involved in, local race. Here is another person who seems at least partially in denial, or at least pretending to be unconcerned. This is former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz on Fox and Friends. Is S8, please.
Look, the Democrat won. He spent like $70,000, and the other two Republicans spent like $2.7 million. But Republicans still need to show up. But when you have 25,000 less people show up, guess what happens? Democrats squeeze through. So I think the answer in November will be quite different because they have to have another race that come November. But still, to suggest it has to do with immigration is just garbage analysis.
Okay, so you're right.
All right, so he's downplaying it. And again, you hear that from some. But in my private conversations with Republican strategists, independent analysts, and Democrats, people say, again, Republicans are on track currently to be wiped out in the midterms, maybe even lose the Senate. We'll talk about that in a bit, but focusing on the House now. So here's Henry Olsen, a conservative, very smart guy, very smart election analyst. Here's what he wrote in his Washington Post column. He said, talking about this Texas race, the outcome nonetheless is yet more proof that the GOP faces a 2018-style midterm shellacking if things don't improve. The Texas special election result on Saturday should set off alarms in the White House. The fact that it probably won't means the 2026 blue wave will likely continue to gather strength in the weeks or months ahead. So Olsen sees what I see, at least on the surface. You don't see a White House saying, this is a warning, we need to do stuff. We'll talk about what they may be doing behind the scenes, but publicly, they're not talking that way. Now, independent analysts often overreact to special election results. We've seen it before. But in this case, again, there's a pretty big consensus. This represents a real problem as a canary in the coal mine, whatever you want to call it, for where the Republicans stand. Here's my friend Harry Enton, honest guy on CNN, talking about what happened in that Texas race. This is S2.
What happened in Texas 9, it didn't just swing to the left, it took a rocket ship to the left. My goodness gracious, the Texas 9 Senate District election marches. This was a district that Donald Trump won by 17 points in 2024. The Democratic candidate in the special election on Saturday, won it by 14 points. That's an over 30-point shift to the left. Any Republican, unlike Ron DeSantis, who doesn't take this seriously, they should realize that this is very perilous.
So Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, as Harry referenced, went on Twitter and he said, yeah, it's a special election, don't overread it, but he said, we really need to take this seriously. The party cannot rest on its laurels. We need to look closely at how this happened. It's about suburban voters, Hispanic voters, younger voters, all these groups which Donald Trump had done very well in just, in 2024, drifting now pretty substantially away. And the implications of that in Texas are huge, where Texas redistricted the congressional seats to try to gain 5 seats. If they perform as poorly with Hispanics in Texas as they did in this special election, they're not going to win those 5 seats. So there's a lot of concern. And partly what you're seeing now is confidence and momentum on the left. They got it in the last November. And in politics, it's like sports. Confidence matters a lot. You help raise more money, candidate recruitment, where that's still germane, and just a general feeling of momentum, of low dollar fundraising, of all the things that make the party feel good. Here's a typical reaction to the Texas race, not from a Republican, not from an independent analyst like Harry, but here's Julie Roginski. She's a Democrat, liberal. Here's how she giddily is reacting to what happened in Texas. And this is very representative of what you're hearing on the left now. This is Julie Roginski.
What you're going to see is the redistricting that Texas Republicans undertook to make those districts somewhat more Latino, because they had to jam those in to make it more Republican. This is going to backfire on them. And if I were Greg Abbott and I were the Republicans in Texas today, I would be seriously thinking about, oh my God, what did we just do? Because we potentially created a lot more Democratic districts than we anticipated doing.
So there's no doubt that Republicans have a demographic problem right now. They've got a polling problem with the president. And while the Senate looks a little more secure, even the Senate could be in play. But just the House being in play, and not just in play, but in the view of a lot of people, gone for the majority control, and maybe a big blue wave, that is significant. That is a change from just a few weeks ago. And it was already building in the minds of analysts looking at the data and the election results before the Texas special election. Now it is full force. Now it is not what's going to happen. It's going to be a Democratic majority in the House, maybe by a lot. Okay. Now, here's what's happening behind the scenes, though. And this is where you got to do a lot of reporting to figure out what could turn things around. Because James Blair, the political director in the White House, deputy chief of staff, the president himself, vice president, all the people who want to keep the majority, they're not just going to sit around and say, oh, woe is us. We've lost the majority. We're going to get wiped out. What they're doing is they're going to the Lloyd Christmas philosophy. All right. Who's Lloyd Christmas? You ask. Lloyd Christmas is the character in Dumb and Dumber, who had one of the most iconic lines in movie history and a very important line for political hope.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
Telling me there's a chance. That's the line. That's the money line from the sensibility currently of Republicans who say, how can the president possibly keep the majority? Well, things have to change. And it starts with the economy. As I said before, the economy is doing better than a lot of voters think. But the question is, will they feel it in time? Will there be a boom in the second and third quarters that voters will feel? Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, says there will be. The president says there will be. When we've seen presidents have good economies, like Reagan did in his second term, like Clinton did, that helps, but it's not enough. We've seen presidents with good economies still get shellacked in the midterms. So that's going to happen, but it's not enough. So what else they need? First of all, they have a huge money advantage. Not in every Senate race, but in raising money, the president's super PAC has an extraordinary amount of money. Elon Musk is now back on Team R, and he's donated a lot of money. People expect him to donate more. Crypto and AI industries are very pro Trump administration. They're talking about tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions. And so that money advantage is big. In a presidential race, money doesn't matter as much. But down ballot, House and Senate races, money matters a lot. We'll see how it shakes out. Democrats are going to raise money too. But Republicans, for a comeback, are counting on a good economy and raising a lot of money and outspending their opponents. Manipulation of the primaries. We saw Democrats do this and the press largely ignored it. But there's a lot of contests where if the Republicans can interfere in the primary, running ads on behalf of the most liberal candidates, the most progressive, the most squad-like candidates, those candidates may not be able to win the general election. So as these primaries come up, watch closely to see, is James Blair, the RNC, outside shadowy groups, are they going to spend money in meddling in the Democratic primaries to manipulate them to get vulnerable Democrats in seats that Republicans would otherwise lose? Watch for that. Then, of course, you never know. There's world events. Terrorist attack, nobody wishes for that, but that's a reality. Stuff can happen in the real world. They could shift the public mood, particularly on immigration, right? The flow of the stories out of Minnesota have clearly hurt Republicans electorally, but maybe that changes, okay? One event that's planned, not something that would be a surprise that could definitely help Republicans, is this convention that they're planning. They're talking about having like a national convention, a big TV show, even though it's not a presidential year. Now, the Democrats might have one too, and the Republican one may not be a success. I'm not predicting any of these things, let me make it clear. But these things could happen and they could have an impact. If that convention, scheduled for the summer or fall, if that allows Republicans to drive a message in a way to create momentum, show discipline, reset the narrative, that could be a big factor. Then you've got the power of incumbency. And every incumbent president does this. And we've seen some of it, but there's going to be more. Members of the cabinet traveling and doling out federal largesse to congressional districts and states where there are races, federal spending, targeting those benefits to places to say to voters, hey, we gave you this stuff, using government to shape politics. Again, everybody does it. The president, though, is particularly, when it comes to stuff like this, particularly shameless, maybe not the most shameless, but you'll see some of that. And then lastly is turning out the president's coalition, targeting all sorts of messaging, maybe some of this federal largesse, to working class voters, trying to have a plan to win back Hispanic voters. The Republicans, the president, James Blair, they're not dopes. They can see that they're not doing as well with Hispanic voters as they need to do to win in Texas, win in other places. So you'll see efforts to figure out, how do we get younger voters back? Maybe the president starts going on podcasts again to target younger people. How do we get Hispanic voters back? How do we get suburban voters back? All of that can revolve around the economy for sure, but some of the same cultural issues that helped the Democrats, Republicans in the 24 election, trans issues, immigration issues that play well for Republicans, some of these other cultural things, you'll see that stepped up, okay? So let's just do a reality check here. It's going to be true for the foreseeable future in terms of anybody giving you a real prediction. Republicans are likely to lose the House by a little or a lot. Republicans, unless there's a real worst case scenario, are likely to narrowly keep the Senate. Okay, that's where we are. That's the dominant forecast. What's changed in the last 2 weeks with the punctuation mark coming from this Texas Senate race, according to my sources in both parties, is now it's not just Republicans are going to keep it by a little or keep it by or lose it by a little. Now it's Republicans are definitely going to lose the House on the status quo. They could lose it by a medium size, or they could lose it by a lot. And losing it by a lot would have implications, okay? All these things, though, that I told you could be part of a Republican comeback before the midterms, they're not fantasies. They're not long shot things. I'm not predicting a Martian invasion here. They're contingency possibilities. The economy has to be better, and then some other things. And then, like what happened with Bill Clinton, maybe Democrats make mistakes. Maybe they start talking about abolishing law enforcement again, right? And Trump's the master of trying to force Democrats into errors, okay? So the question going forward is, does enough break the president's way, some by luck, some by design, to have a chance to change the terrain? Because on the current trajectory, we're looking at either loss of control of the House or a blue wave. We'll see if it changes. We'll keep tracking it. But that's where it is now, and that's a big change from just 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's my reported monologue. There you have it. Send me your email. Let me know what you think. You can send an email to nextuphalperin@gmail.com. Tell me if you think my analysis, my reporting is correct. And as always, we'd love you to be part of the program in a sustained way. Don't leave it to chance. Go on YouTube or on the podcast version of the show and subscribe, like. You'll see full episodes there, bonus material, as well as great clips from all our programs. You go to youtube.com/@nextuphalperin. And on the podcast, same thing. Subscribe, like, share it. We have many Nexters growing every week, but we want more. So do me a favor and share this program if you like it. Tell other folks to listen to it and sign up so they get the programs automatically delivered. All right, a quick break. When we come back, my conversation with my pal and colleague, Maureen Callahan. We'll talk about everything under the entertainment and gossip sun. Maureen Callahan is next up. Hey, did you know that high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor for mortality? 1 in 2 adults has it. That means there's a 50-50 chance you are the equivalent of a walking time bomb. But here's some good news. You can take control of your blood pressure naturally without relying on big pharma. 120 Life is a blend of great tasting superfruit juices that have been shown to help lower blood pressure. It's backed by hundreds of doctors and trusted by thousands of people who've seen measurable results. And here's the very best part. It's completely risk-free. Try 120 Life for 2 weeks. And if you don't see a difference in your numbers, you get your money back. Go to 120life.com. Again, that's 120life.com. And use code NEXTUP. You'll save 20% and you'll get free shipping. This is a serious thing. This is your life we're talking about. 120 Life can help. All right, next up and joining me now, really a fan favorite here, one of the best guests ever in the history of Next Up. In the 42 years this program's been on, no one has caused the same virality, audience reaction as Maureen Callahan, my fellow columnist at the Daily Mail and my fellow host of a program here on the MK Network. Maureen hosts The Nerve, released on every streaming platform that's ever been invented, every week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Maureen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Mark, and thank you for that very generous introduction.
It's all data-driven. It's all fact-based.
I'm actually AI. I don't exist.
Subjectively, I wouldn't necessarily say you were the absolute favorite guest we've ever had, but the data don't lie. The data suggests you should really quit your show and come join mine, because every time you're on, the numbers spike.
Well, I love to hear that. I'm so happy that it's something I would never have predicted, but we have this nice commingling, I think. You know, I really love where it feels kind of like a pizza day at school. It's like there's a lot of really dark news going on, and it's like just talking about fun, like showbizy, ridiculous gossip, you know, can be really just like a nice palate cleanser. Yes,
we're going to cleanse all palates talking about great stories. But just we're in award season. Do you love award season? The sprint from the first award show, we just had the Golden Globes, right? And we're headed towards Oscars, et cetera. Do you love the award season?
I do. I love it in a different, in a kind of a sideways approach we have at The Nerve. We did a Globes live stream for the red carpet. We're doing a Globes live stream. We're doing an Oscars live stream for the red carpet in March. I actually think now the spectacle really is in the campaigning for the Oscar, which begins the winter prior. So this really began at the end of 2024. Over at the Nerve, we are following assiduously Timothy Chalamet, who we call Timothée Shamalama Ding Dong.
Yeah.
His relentless insistence that he has been putting out now for the 7 or 8 years that he has been professionally acting in cinema, that he's been putting out some top level shit, Mark.
Yeah.
Verbatim. I quote that verbatim. So give him the Oscar.
Yeah. Pound for pound. And they're both, well, one's fatter now, but they both have been thin. Pound for pound, who's a better actor, Chalamet or Leo Dio?
Oh, Leo D. No question.
Really?
Oh, forget. You put up Leo, first of all, child prodigy, What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yeah.
Okay. For my money, one of the all-time best Leo performances in The Departed. He should have won the Oscar for that.
Yeah, genius. I agree with you that Leo's better, but I got to say, Chalamet's impressive to me.
How so, Mark?
I think he's got, the camera loves him and he loves the camera.
Do you find him an adequate representation of masculinity?
A certain type of masculinity, of someone whose last name ends in E-T. I mean, he is what he is. He's not in Leo's category. It was almost a test, like a Willy Wonka test at the end of the movie. Of course, Leo Dio is better, but I'm just saying I'm impressed with Chalamet. I think he's special.
What is your? I've got to probe you a little bit on this. Yeah. Have you watched many of his performances, and if so, which ones? Okay, which ones have really like electrified you?
What do we call it? Wonka.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one where I thought he was special. The first thing I saw of his, that he thought special. But I tell you, I also loved him at the Globes. I thought he was very charismatic at the Globes.
I did not buy his "aw shucks, I'm so humble" act.
Really?
Oh God, no. Mark, this was like 3 weeks after I'm Doing Top Level Shit went viral. Yeah. And I think Mama Jenner, he's dating Kylie.
I know.
Kylie Jenner. I think she and his management team grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and said, "You better dial this back. It's not helping your cause to be demanding an Oscar and saying you're the most talented actor out there going."
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask you one more awards show question, and then we're going to move on to some other topics. You can either reference specific programs or just oeuvre. Who are the three granddaddy, grandmommy of them all hosts of award shows?
Ricky Gervais, number one.
Ricky Gervais, number one, yeah.
Number one, no comparison. Number two, I don't know if Joan Rivers ever hosted.
That's a good question.
But she would have been just a no-brainer.
I'm gonna ask AI while you give me number three.
I don't think he ever did it, and I don't think he ever would have deigned to do it. But the late great George Carlin.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree with you about Gervais. I just think duh. Carson, and I love Billy Crystal. I also love Tina Fey and Amy. Those would be mine. Those would be mine.
Tina Fey and Amy's joke about George Clooney at the Globes. Do you remember that?
I remember that they got a huge gasp and then laughter. But what was the joke?
I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically, like George Clooney starred with Sandra Bullock in Gravity, and being in such close proximity to a woman who wasn't 40 years his junior made him float himself off into space.
Right. Yeah. They're great. They're great. And lastly, what's her name? Nikki Glaser. Fan? Not a fan of her hosting.
I'm not really a fan of hers. She's a little bit too, there's an air of desperation that comes off of her. Like she wants to be accepted by those people so badly. And I just think if you're going to do it right, you have to kind of be oppositional. You have to be oppositional enough. I would also like to give a special mention to Chris Rock, who recovered. I don't know anybody else who could have recovered the way that he did after he was smacked by Will Smith at the Oscars that year.
If you get the Oscar hosting handbook, there's nothing in there about if you are struck physically. There's nothing in there. You have to improv that, and he did.
He really did. I mean, he really gathered himself in that moment. And by the way, I'm reading reports that the Oscars are about to lift their ban on Will Smith, and this is why. Just yet another piece of evidence as to why Hollywood is dying. If they do that, F them, for real.
I love award season. All right.
You do? I didn't know that.
I love award season. I just love it. And I got to say, I watch the awards the way I watch NFL games now, which is I don't watch live. I start about half an hour after it begins. skip all the commercials unless they're like Super Bowl quality commercials, and then I skip the stuff I don't want to see. I don't need to see the Japanese animator giving his speech about best foreign language cartoon. I don't need to see that one. So very efficient. I speed right through it. But the parts I love. I love the fashion. I love the cutaways. I said no more questions, but I do have to ask you one as we segue into today. I walked out of the second Wicked because the young person I was with didn't like it. So I didn't finish it. But is it an outrage that Ariana was not nominated, or totally fine?
You know, I have to be fully transparent and tell you I have zero interest in the Wicked movies. I haven't seen them. And what doesn't help is the carpet bombing in the culture. It felt very much like the promotion for Barbie. Remember that summer where it just blanketed everybody, and it was like, we're going to frog march you to this theater. You're going to have to see this movie to feel like you're part of the conversation. I felt the same way about the Wicked promotional tours, initial and this year's, and I found it really disturbing. You know, this is a movie that's really marketed towards tweens, young girls and tweens, and the two of them practically dry humping and copulating on any given red carpet or Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood media interview. I found it so off. I mean, like, I'm not a prude, but like, I just found it so off-putting and so completely, again, there's a desperation to it, like anything for eyeballs, anything.
It's a machine. The two of them, the way their publicists manipulate them. But I have to say, I know she's a singer and I know she's an actress. I think she's such a brilliant comedian and an impressionist that I want everything for her, because her impressions are so extraordinary.
I was unaware of that.
Oh, are you serious? When we're done, the minute we're done, go on YouTube and just search Ariana Grande impressions. She's phenomenal. She does singing and talking impressions of people. They're extraordinary. All right, let's talk about. Are you good at chronology, remembering things, dates and things? Are you good at that?
Well, I'm not like is it Mary Lou Henner who has that very rare it's kind of a gift, but like she can remember the date and time and the day of the week of just about anything that's ever happened in her life.
I am not now, nor will ever ask you to be Mary Lou Henner, but I am going to ask you.
I'll do my best.
When did It Ends With Us? How many years ago was that released? 3 years?
Oh, It Ends With Us? I'm going to say maybe 2.
2 years?
It was the summer of 24, maybe?
Yeah. And did the controversy start before or after the film came out?
I believe she filed. God, did she file before? Did that film come out in 25?
I think she filed before, and it disrupted the PR, right?
It did, because what we're seeing in this document dump of emails that are among, like, not only Blake and Ryan and Justin, but Sony executives and other A-list stars.
Right.
The head of Sony is saying, listen, this is now the only thing this movie is going to be remembered for. Right. He called her an effing terrorist, Blake Lively.
Right.
Yeah.
So where are we? Just level set before we speculate about what's going to happen next. Who's got the upper hand right now?
I think Baldoni does.
Because
at least in the public square.
Yeah.
Because this latest document dump is so damning. Now, the headline here, I can get to Taylor Swift's involvement in a minute.
Yeah. We'll get to Taylor in a minute, but I want to talk about the two of them and Ryan first.
Oh, psycho arsonist Ryan. And any viewer of The Nerve knows he burned down his elementary school in Canada and boasted about it and got away with it.
But for the warmth.
No, I think it's a sexual kink, as most arsonists experience. That's why they're in the trade, as it were. This document dump is very, very damning, because Blake is begging for help from the likes of Matt Damon and her rumored one-time paramour Ben Affleck for help in wresting control of this movie from Justin, who was the director who financed the movie. And what's not in any of these communiques, Mark, is, oh my God, you guys, he sexually harassed me.
Right.
He sexually tried to take advantage of me. It's not there. It's not there. And when she ran running to the New York Times, that was the entire spine of her lawsuit. This guy sexually harassed me.
Right. When you say one-time paramour, does that mean at one time they were alleged to be lovers, or they just had one hookup?
Oh, well, I could only speculate, but it was very heavily rumored when they were shooting The Town.
Got it.
Great movie.
Yeah, she's very good in The Town.
She's not bad in it. You know, she's the problem with casting, I find, in Hollywood, the mistake they often make is you cannot hire someone who has had extensive cosmetic work. I'm not saying Blake has, but she looked a little too expensive. And I'll tell you another one that was a major, major mistake. Do you remember Manchester by the Sea, starring Casey Affleck and Michelle Williams? Okay.
Yeah.
The problem with Michelle Williams as a lower income single mother in a backwater town in Boston, her eyebrows were way too beautifully groomed.
Yeah. They
It
should
takes
have
you
mussed her
right
up.
out of it.
What's that? Charlize Theron. She's had some roles where they've mussed her up quite a
Right.
bit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just talk about the three of them: Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Justin. Are they working? I know they're spending a lot of time with their lawyers and publicists, but are the three of them getting work these days? Do they even have projects?
No, Blake, as the Sony exec predicted accurately, is unhireable now.
Yeah.
Ryan has actually been dropped, I believe, by Paramount. He had 3 movies on the slate in development. He's been dropped by them. Baldoni, we don't know. I mean, I've read reports that, the stress of this entire lawsuit has kind of really leveled him and devastated him. He's gonna need to sort of come out the other end of it. I can only hope that somebody's gonna offer him work. In these exchanges with Matt Damon, Matt's saying to Blake, he's buying everything she's selling, hook, line, and sinker, and he says, well, I hope that you'll come make a movie at our studio over at Artist Equity, the one that he runs with Ben, that they co-founded.
Right. Yeah.
But I, if anybody deserves a second chance here, it's Justin Baldoni.
Yeah. But as far as you know, he's got no current projects.
I haven't been on IMDb Pro.
Yeah. Okay.
I should look. Yeah.
So there's going to be a trial in May. At least that's when it's scheduled for. What's at stake in the trial? Because they've been suits and countersuits. So is it everything all together, or is it her suit against him, or his suit against her? What is the trial in May?
The last I read, the judge in the case tossed Baldoni's countersuit. Now, I believe they can still refile. The problem I have with this judge is that this judge is the brother of Doug Liman. Doug Liman is a very big Hollywood director. He directed Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad and Angie.
Yeah.
I don't know how you couldn't say there's not a conflict of interest here.
I mean, they got to find a judge in Hollywood who doesn't have Hollywood connections. I'm sure there's some.
But this is happening in New York.
Yeah. Yeah. The trial's in New York?
I believe it's in New York City. I believe that's where Blake filed. Blake and Ryan live here. They live in Tribeca.
Yeah.
They had a lot of their interactions with Justin Baldoni, electronically or otherwise, were in New York. I believe the film shot in and around New York, possibly New Jersey. There's a lot of filming in New Jersey now.
Wouldn't it be spectacular if I got selected to be a juror in that case?
I mean, right now, this is like
Fingers crossed.
evidence you get tossed out on your,
Yeah. I mean, I've never gotten on a jury, and I don't really want to, but I did do voir dire once, and they were like, "No, sorry, you're not going to be on the jury." But I'd like to be on this one. All right, let's talk about Taylor. As I read most of my connection to this is through the Daily Mail and the New York Post. But as I read this, Taylor and Blake are I mean, this has not been not good for their friendship. What do we know about the current attitude they have towards each other, as revealed in what we know, and then again, what have we learned about the communications that have come out in part of the case?
Well, I'll take the second question first.
Yeah.
Last winter, end of 2025, Tree Payne, who is Taylor's publicist, pushed back on any inference that Taylor had anything whatsoever to do with the making of It Ends With Us, of the war that was going on between Blake and Justin and Ryan and Justin, that yes, she did happen to be at the Tribeca penthouse loft when Blake and Ryan were giving Justin just a complete lecture, bully, punishment about how this movie was going to get done. Yeah, Taylor was there, but it was a complete accident and she was fully mute. Now, these document dumps completely prove that to be a lie. A lie, okay? Blake and Taylor were texting with each other. Taylor sends Blake a text message with a link to a People magazine story. It's a pickup of a Justin interview. And Taylor writes, I think this bitch knows something is coming. Taylor writes to Blake that Justin has made a strategic error in agreeing with Blake's suggestion that they use a Taylor Swift song in the trailer for the movie. And Taylor says, if Justin were strategic, he would have said no to that because I am your ally, not his. And now you have more power. So she's all over this. And then Blake is saying to Taylor that she was, quote, epically heroic today. I believe that was the meeting that I just mentioned.
Right.
And that she was recounting all of everything that Taylor has been saying to Ryan, who's just lapping it all up. So what you're seeing, what it looks like to me, is a concerted effort among 3 A-listers, one of whom has no business in it. Like, this is not her movie. I mean, Mark, this would be like if you called me up and you said, Maureen, I'm having problems with my book editor, which I have nothing to do with. Would you help me destroy the book editor so I can go like? And I would be like, first of all,
if we were absolute besties, I might ask you for help.
But that kind of help, first of all, I would say no, and secondly, I would begin distancing myself from you because that is a very dark impulse.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
yeah.
Is that what Taylor has done? Is Taylor now fully distanced?
That is the reporting. But you know what? Nobody believes these people anymore because they do lie so much. So there is now under the surface reports that actually Taylor has only distanced herself from Blake publicly, but that there's suspicion that privately they still have some kind of communication.
So wouldn't this be the acid test? Is Blake going to Taylor's wedding?
That's the acid. But again, is it just like, hey, Blake, I need you to stay away for, my own preservation.
But if they're still secretly friends, she can't miss what Taylor hopes will be her one and only wedding.
I mean, Mark, I think you mistake like A-list Hollywood allyship for like genuine, real friendship.
You don't think they were ever genuine friends? They seem.
I do. I actually think they were likely. I talked about this on The Nerve the other day. If you look at images of them, photographed and put on their own social media and paparazzi photos, I think there was a psychosexual element to that friendship.
Well, most every relationship Taylor has is basically psychosexual.
Yeah, but this is like, this sort of, I think, explains the kind of enmeshment that Taylor has in how this all turns out for Blake.
Totally agree. All right, so you mentioned the document dumps, and there have been disclosures all along, some through the courts, but some the publicists are releasing to gain various upper hands. Do we have reason to believe that there's explosive documents, emails, and other things that haven't been released yet?
I would bet that there are. I think that Justin Baldoni's attorneys are extremely strategic and very media savvy. And, every time they get denied by the court or a motion is tossed, they make sure that hard evidence that is in writing, that is in black and white, and it gets out to the public, and it truly boggles the mind. You think these people would be smarter. The smartest person so far in this entire mess is Ben Affleck, who Blake's email to him is one for the ages. And on top of it, the lawyers have noted, she sent it to Ben at like almost 1 a.m. It's very lengthy. It's very desperate. And it says non-responsive, which means they have no physical evidence that Ben ever replied.
Right. All right. I'm asked the producers, can I ask one more question before we go to break? Is that okay? Yes. Okay. Here's my question. Who's smarter of the three of them? Who's the smartest? Of Ryan, Blake, and Justin? Who's the smartest and why?
Of Ryan, Blake, and Justin?
Yeah. Who's the smartest?
I'm going to say Justin. I think Justin is
why.
Playing the long game.
Yeah.
Justin has kept himself quiet. The people around Justin are very quiet. I've been really impressed so far with these are, I believe, coming from his side, but the communiques between Justin and his intimates, which are they all to a one say the same thing. I'm just trying to keep my head held high. I'm trying to get through this with my dignity intact. There's no talk of revenge, no talk of retribution. You're not seeing a Taylor Swift kind of tossed off. This bitch, is causing, like, there's none of it. And I just think karma has a very long tail. And I think this will end up redounding to his benefit.
And he's done no interviews, right? He's done no media
Not that I'm
interviews.
aware of. I don't
All
think
right.
he's done them yet.
I think you and I should get the first one after he wins a trial, like a
I
joint
would
interview.
love for Justin to come on the Nerve after, if this thing
Joint
even goes
interview.
to trial. But I can't believe it's going to go to trial. Like,
I
and
know.
that to your question about who's the smartest. If I'm Blake and Ryan, who clearly think they're really smart. I mean, Ryan thinks he's really smart.
He does.
You settle this. You
Yeah.
drop it.
They still could. They could right on the eve of the trial. All right, we got to take a break. We're over a little bit. But next up, more with Maureen. Come right back. All right, let's talk snacks now. You ever taken a look at the nutritional label on a bag of typical chips? What you'll see on there is a chemical cocktail. Things like seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, vague references to some natural flavors, and ingredients that sound more like a science experiment than a healthy snack. Masa is redefining snacking with real food. Their chips have just 3 ingredients: organic corn, good; sea salt, good; and 100% grass-fed beef tallow, also good. Clean, simple, tasty Masa chips leave you satisfied and energized without the crash, bloat, or sluggishness you so often get with typical chips. There's no binging, no lingering hunger, just a snack that feels good every time. Tastes good too. Personally, I like the blue corn right now. Those are my favorites, but you'll love them all. And if you love Masa, you'll also love Vandy Crisps. Vandy is Masa's sister company. They make the most delicious, just 3 ingredient potato chips I've ever tasted. I like the original, but some of you will like the smokehouse barbecue, maybe the French onion. But if you're ready to give either one a try, maybe both, Masa and Vandy, use the code MARK. You get 25% off your first order at either masachips.com or vandycrisps.com. You can also just click on the link in the video description or scan the QR code. You can claim this delicious offer. And if you don't want to order some online but want to go buy some right now, Masa and Vandy are available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by right now, pick up a couple of bags before someone else nabs them. All right, welcome back. We're going to talk more. Couldn't be more excited to have another segment here with Maureen Callahan, my colleague on the MK Media Network, columnist at the Daily Mail, host of The Nerve. New episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday on YouTube, where you get your podcasts, probably on LinkedIn, for all I know. Maureen, you can pass on these, but I need some data. If you don't have an answer, you just pass. Is there a new TV show you're watching that you'd recommend?
Riot Women on BritBox.
BritBox costs like $12 a month.
Something like that. There's tiers. Yeah.
What's the premise of Riot Women?
Riot Women is about 5 middle-aged menopausal women in Britain who decide to take out their rage by forming a rock band.
Awesome. And is it all? Can you binge it? Is it all up there?
I think it's all up there. I think it's all 6 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody you knew you're following on Instagram that you fancy?
It ends with us lawsuits.
That's an Instagram account?
Yep.
What goes on there?
All the latest data dumps in the Blake Lively Baldoni scandal. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to join that one immediately. Anybody new on Substack you're reading?
No, but you know what I need to do, Mark? I need to cancel my subscription to Ryan Liz's Substack, which I was reading for just the latest version of his side of events.
What do you think that if 100% they take the 100% of people who signed up because they had to read his stuff on his divorce, or not divorce, but his broken engagement, what percentage of those people do you think have canceled or will cancel?
Like 90%. I mean, let's be real, Mark. The only people who signed up are people like us, media people.
Yeah. The stuff he's written on there since that isn't about the Kennedy story, not that interesting.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
it's not making headlines, I can tell you that.
Not even reading. Okay. Anybody new, any new podcasts you're listening to?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm late to this. It's not a new podcast. A friend of mine turned me on to it. It's called The Rest is History. Do you know it?
Yeah, I do. I've never listened to it, but people love it. They think it's quite captivating.
Yeah, it definitely is. They just did Joan of Arc in 4 or 5 segments, deep dive and stuff I never knew. It's great.
Do they have somebody playing Joan of Arc, or are they just talking about her?
No, they talk about her, they sort of interview each other. You know, one of the 2 British historians will take, or sometimes they'll bring in a British historian or any historian, but they come at it always with a fresh angle, and it's fascinating stuff.
All right, any new place you want to visit? Any new bucket list location you want to get to.
Yeah, so we did a first edition of the Nervy Traveler with Belinda Carlisle, which dropped over the holidays, and that was Mexico City. Next, we're going to the south of France, which has this entire I didn't know any of this, and I was raised Catholic. I went through 12 years of Catholic school, but I didn't know that after Jesus Christ died, Mary Magdalene relocated to the south of France, and her skull is ensconced in a basilica there. Why
did she go there for the weather? Why'd she go there?
Oh no, she was building her own religious following there, and there are all kinds of theories as to why she went there.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to go there next. That's in September.
That's a long way off, September.
Yeah, but it takes a long time to plan a trip like this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, good list. One more. Any new celebrity you've fallen in love with, just as a journalist, anybody who's newly captivating you?
Well, this isn't a new captivation, but I was very excited to hear that Harry Styles has a new album coming out.
With a great title.
Oh my God, the title's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Will you say the title?
I got to look it up. I know it's great, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But why you talk about why you like it so much?
Part of it is disco occasionally.
Yeah. That's what it's called.
Kiss All Night.
Kiss All Night, disco occasionally. Hold on, I'm going to find it. Kiss All Night, disco occasionally.
I mean, love it.
It's one of those things where of course I should have thought of that. I could have named everything I do that.
But who would have thought of it?
Only Harry.
I love that Harry goes dark.
Yeah.
For a couple of years. He lets everybody miss him. He doesn't, there's nothing graspy or needy about it.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and he's doing a mini tour. He's going to do 50 dates in only 7 American cities.
Yeah.
And also I'm going to see live for the first time. This guy's established and has been around forever, but in late February, I'm going to see Chris Stapleton live for the first time in Connecticut.
Ooh.
I can't wait.
What's the venue for that in Connecticut?
It's like the Mohican Sun.
Yeah.
I've never been to a show at a casino, but I got to do it.
I have been I'll look it up myself, but I've never been to Mohegan Sun, but they get big acts there.
There are tons of big acts there. Yeah. I think Jerry Seinfeld also gets does a lot of dates at places like that.
My theory about Harry Styles, and I don't mean this in a negative, to the contrary, I think he might be an alien. He's too perfect.
You think he might be an alien? I think
he might be an alien or Jesus. There's just something about him. He's ethereal. Is that the right word? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
He's not like a person. He's like an apparition, like an angel. Maybe he's an angel.
I just love him. And I loved, God, I'm blanking on the name of the album, the California album he did. That it had that whole 70s, oh my God, Laurel Canyon vibe,
Somebody's going to say
was the lead
someone will say it in my ear. Someone will say it in my ear.
So good.
Do you know the names of his parents and his siblings?
I don't.
It just popped up here when I Googled looking for the album title. I just find this interesting. His mom's name is Ann Twist. Like Oliver
Oh my God,
Twist.
it sounds
it's a
like
good last
Dickensian,
name.
yeah.
Right? And his dad's name is Desmond Styles. That's amazing. But now listen to the names of his siblings. Gemma Styles.
Good name.
Good name. Anybody with Gemma. And then for some reason, his other sister and his brother have mom's last name. What's it called? Harry's House was the California album. Harry's House. Anyway,
Was it?
That's what I'm told. I just repeat
No,
what I'm
I
told.
don't think that's right. I could
All
be
right.
wrong, but okay.
Right. Gemma Styles. And then again, somebody could look this up. Why his siblings have different names. His brother's name is Mike Twist. And his other sister's name is Amy Twist. This is the best name family ever.
I know.
Harry, Amy, Mike, Gemma, and then either they just choose buffet style, Styles or Twist.
Or Styles Twist or Twist
Yes,
Styles.
they
I
could
mean,
have
there's
gone
a
with the
million
hyphen.
permutations.
They could
Yeah.
have gone. We ever talked about Random Penguin? Have we ever talked about that?
No.
So when Random House and Penguin Publishing merged, I forget if it was a merger or takeover or whatever, they were trying to come up with the name, and they came up with all sorts of permutations. I think they ended up with I think it's called Random Penguin. I think it's called Random House Penguin. I think that's what it's called. But someone suggested that they call it Random Penguin, which would have been the best because it's so avant-garde, so out there. Random Penguin. Like, who publishes your books? Random Penguin.
I know, but it does sort of lack, that's the problem with it. It lacks,
Gravitas.
exactly. Thank you. That was the word I was searching for.
It's a little edgy, but I like it. I like it a lot. All right. we're now talking about something that involves the death of two people. So I don't want to be totally light in our tone, but I do want to talk to you about the murder of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner by Nick Reiner. It's an incredible story. I met Rob Reiner, and like everybody else, I was in awe of his work, and very nice guy. But I think this is such an incredible, just as a journalist, such an incredible story, both about just the fact of it, of the murder. He's not been convicted or pled guilty, so we could say alleged, but just their place in Hollywood and all the stuff about what they did the night before and him living in the guest house. So I want to drill down on some specifics, but what's your sort of overall view of this drama?
My overall view of this is that we are going to learn a lot more. And what we have learned thus far has me convinced that despite the public appearance of them as a very cohesive, happy family, that was a very, very, very sick house. Yeah. And that house revolved around the drug addiction, the temper tantrums, the mental illness of Nick Reiner. And we are learning things about the ways in which they coddled him. To me, the most telling thing so far, Mark, is Rob and Michelle asking Conan, allegedly, if they could bring their 32-year-old troubled, drug-addicted son to this glittering Hollywood holiday party. And what must have been going through the minds, I'm sure Nick Reiner was very well known to everyone in that room. And, just the deflation you can imagine and the eye rolls when he entered the room, like, this guy again, this problem again. I think the reason, there are conflicting reports as to how it is that Alan Jackson, the superstar lawyer who got Karen Reed off, withdrew from Nick Reiner's case. He was the lead defense attorney. The reports are either that the surviving siblings sort of awoke from their shock and said, there's no way we're going to bankroll this. Or secondly, the other thing that I've read, which I think is fairly dark, I'm just going to be honest, is that Rob and Michelle Reiner left their entire estate to charity. And I don't think that their children seem very well equipped to care for themselves in the manner in which they were raised.
Yeah. There's so much of this I want to ask you about. I want to start here. A number of years ago, I can't remember how long, but a pretty decent time ago, on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where I live, a nanny killed the kid she was taking care of.
I remember this.
And in the aftermath of that, parents with nannies were like, this is scary, like leaving my kids with someone, and apparently that person could, instead of taking care of them, kill them. I'm wondering, in Hollywood or beyond, or just rich people, particularly rich people whose children have addiction issues or mental health issues, like, do you think parents are now thinking about that and seeing this as like a cautionary thing to say, our kid could come in here and kill us?
I mean, it's a really good question. I don't know. I think what the Reiner case really highlights is what is truly like the dark underbelly of that level of fame and wealth. And when the offspring, when the children have no chance at ever matching or exceeding their parents' success. Rob Reiner, the sort of attempt he made to bring Nick, who was never, ever going to make it in his world, into his world by financing and directing a film called Being Charlie, which I believe he co-wrote with Nick, which was all about Nick's addictions. Charlie was the stand-in for Nick. And you watch them on that press tour, and all that's really coming off of Nick Reiner is hostility and enmity and rage, and Rob's trying to laugh it off. And in retrospect, you just look at that and you think it's the worst thing that Rob could have done, and we're seeing a version of it now. I had a conversation with this psychology professor named Sam Vaknin. We're going to air it on The Nerve about pegged to the Nick Reiner thing, that there are many ways to kill your parents without killing your parents. And I think we're seeing a metaphorical version of that now playing out with the Beckhams. Yeah. With Brooklyn Beckham renouncing his family on Instagram, taking to social media to castigate them for any number of slights, any number of insults he feels he's weathered. It also feels very adjacent to Harry and Meghan. This complete, it's both a lionization and an idolization of the parents and a complete and utter loathing of the parents. And I think both exist side by side.
You know what the Beckham thing reminds me of, and I know you know about this, maybe not as familiar with it as I am, is what happened with Kellyanne Conway and her daughter, who went on social media and talked all about her parents and her parents' relationship. Her parents are now divorced, but it's another. I mean, it's not the same as being killed by your kid. But there is this thing, particularly for celebrities, but again, it could happen to other people, where if your kid's unhappy and they want to make a break, they now have choices of platforms where they can go on and say anything. Some of it could be true, some of it not. But if you're a celebrity, there's not much you can do except sit back and take it.
You know, the thing that galls about Brooklyn Beckham's temper tantrum is that he spent his entire life springboarding from glamour job to glamour job, attempting to be anything from a DJ to a photographer to a model. Now he's slinging hot sauce. I'm not making that up, on the backs of his parents' name and fame. And he would never have had those opportunities without that. He wouldn't have a watch collection that's worth conservatively $1 million if his daddy hadn't bought him those things. But in the full circle of it, Mark, you see how David and Victoria also built this little monster. Yeah. You know, they were probably trying in those ways to apologize for their own success, their own fame, their own vaulting ambition, full well knowing that their eldest would never, ever get to even competing with them.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more Rob Reiner question before we got to stop. There was a little thing for him at the Golden Globes, but at the Oscars, there's obviously going to be a big commemoration for Rob Reiner. I'm wondering, I've got an idea, but I'm going to tell you mine second. What do you think would be a fitting way to commemorate Rob Reiner at the Oscars?
You know, I actually I'm a little bit more cynical than you are. The Oscars are very strange with who they remember the year they wouldn't allow Matthew Perry to be like in memoriam.
I do.
They're such snobs.
In memoriam is like the Soviet Union. It's like you can't be honest. You got to do whoever's in favor out of it. But they're going to do Rob Reiner.
I would hope. I mean, you know, I know the Spinal Tap sequel bombed, but I think probably my favorite scene in Spinal Tap is when they take the stage to what they believe is their replica of Stonehenge, but it's in miniature because Nigel or whoever like drew the model on a cocktail napkin. I'd love to see a recreation of that.
Well, that's what I want is recreations. I want a big stage, little tableaus, and do like the 6 most iconic scenes from Rob Reiner movies with the actors, either the original actors, or if that doesn't work, great actors of today recreating the scenes. Just like little 2-minute vignettes, do 6 of them for 12 minutes. I think it'd be spectacularly entertaining and a very fitting commemoration because, of course, as people have noted, he spanned genres. He did comedy, he did drama, he did everything. So that's what I'm hoping they do. But I do look forward to seeing what they do. All right, as Bill Clinton would say, they're telling me I got to quit. Maureen, very grateful to you. Thank you for being part of the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hope you'll come back soon. I want to go cover the trial with you together. So make sure
so fun,
save me a seat. All right, that's it for today's program. We're going to be back on Thursday with a brand new episode of Next Up. As always, help us expand our roster of Nexties. Go to YouTube and sign up there, download and like, subscribe, share it. And same with the podcast version. If you listen to that, please become a regular listener and share it with your friends. We want you and everybody you know to always know what's coming next up.